Hello, my name is Nairi and welcome to Joffiel Whispers. I intended in this video to talk about knowledge and philosophy, but sitting up in bed at 3 o'clock this morning with a cup of coffee, I suddenly felt I really needed to continue with the theme of the last video on knowledge and fear because of an article I had seen by an astrologer I follow, whose name is Joni Petrie. She's an American astrologer and highly respected. I believe in astrology. I have reason to believe in astrology, coming from my first meeting with an astrologer in perhaps my 30s, early 40s, who happens to have been born on the same day as me and is younger by about 3 hours. And the similarities between our lives and even the way we look was so compelling. I felt there must be something in it, and I've been following it ever since. Now, I don't know about you if you do follow astrology, but astrology is not about prediction. Astrology is, good astrology, is about understanding the energies around us in order to deal with them in an appropriate way. And my mind was going back to so many images I've seen in the last few weeks about all the farmers' demonstrations, particularly in Europe. And of course those demonstrations come out of anger. And where does anger come from? It comes from fear. And while one can understand that those people feel powerless and need to do something, one can also see that what they're doing is at the same time destructive. It's destroying an environment that belongs to all. And as I say, I sympathise with them, and there must be a better way to go. And so we come back to my constant emphasis on, or in the last few videos, on fear and knowledge. You see, when people have knowledge, they have power, as I keep saying. And if those farmers had more knowledge to things that ordinary people, including all of us, don't have access to, knowledge about how governments work, knowledge about how economics work, knowledge about how to negotiate those institutions in a way that works for us. We simply don't know those things, and it leaves us feeling powerless. So coming back to astrology, what is astrology about? Astrology is looking, as I said, at the energies around us. And what are those current energies? Well, I'm not an astrologer, and I'm not going to try and read the astrology. I will simply tell you what is around us at the moment in March 2024. And the energy of fear is a big issue for all of us. And of course, fear does lead to irrational behaviour. But when you know that those energies are there, perhaps you can work with them differently. So perhaps if we know what those energies are, we can work with them differently. Instead of our fears being expressed as violence, perhaps they can inspire us or drive us to start finding out a little bit more, to knowing a bit more, and being able to function in a way that is not so destructive, but is helpful. And those energies are expressing them in many ways for many people, everybody around the world, but they express themselves differently. A lot of people seem to be totally oblivious to those energies. They're happily going about their lives, not knowing about the underlying energies that are driving us and could well come back to affect them negatively in the not so distant future. When I think of fear, I think of the movie called The Matrix. which probably most of you have watched. I've certainly watched it a number of times, even though I don't watch movies very often. And I was thinking about the way that story is perceived among people generally, how the idea of the Matrix is perceived, and how many people are now feeling fearful because they feel, as I do in fact, trapped in a world that we can't escape from, because the Matrix appears to be something in which we are entrapped. But perhaps there's another way to look at the Matrix. And I've been trying to think of analogies to describe to you how we might perceive of that in a way that is less fearful, that perhaps we can see a different way through. Let's think about a pendulum. A pendulum swings backwards and forwards constantly. Once it's in motion, some pendulums can keep going for a very long time. Now, a pendulum is something in motion. And you can imagine that the energies around us are in motion too. Maybe not swinging backwards and forwards, but in constant motion. So the pendulum is simply an analogy. It's not what actually happens. But there comes a point in a pendulum's movement where for a split second in time, it stops moving. And if a pendulum could move very, very fast, think of a hummingbird's wings. Sometimes you just can't see the wings at all. You can only hear them, and all you see is the body of the bird, but you don't see the wings movement. Depending on how fast the pendulum is moving, the moment in time where they stop and you can visually see those movements is a split second in time. It may be too short for you even to see it, but it does occur. And in those moments of time, though, where you can see it, you know what the pendulum is. But when it's in constant movement, you can't see it, so you don't know what it is. So that's one thought. The other analogy is standing waves. Some of you will know what standing waves are, but for those who don't, I'll explain it in the usual way in which it's expressed, which is if you have a pond of water and you drop a stone into it, it will send out waves in a circular shape, and the waves get closer and closer together. Further and further apart, the further away they are from the source. And if you drop two stones in the water, you have two lots of circular waves. So the point at which those waves cross one another is what we call standing waves, because the wave itself, I think, from memory, is actually doubled in height. Now imagine, if you will, if you could look from a sideways position, if you could sit in a place where you're looking across the water and there's a screen, so you can't see the movement of the waves, but what you can see are the standing waves, because they protrude slightly more than others. And I think that's probably an analogy for a hologram. When we see a hologram, we only see parts of the picture. But if we relax our eyes in such a way that certain parts of the picture link up, we can see an image, even though the general picture is just a mass of dots or whatever that formation is. So that would be our reality. Those standing waves would be our reality. And what we can't see are the waves that cause the standing waves. We can't see the energies. Let's replace the idea of a rock for an energy source. We can't see those energy sources, nor can we see the complete underlying structure of the water beneath. So our view is very limited. So if you come back to the matrix, here's one way of looking at it. What if the matrix isn't something we are inside? It's not something we're trapped in that we could escape from if we knew how. Maybe the matrix is simply a set of standing waves that we tune into on a personal level or a human level. And perhaps there could be another set of standing waves that occur at the same time, which we don't see. So the set of standing waves we do perceive are our matrix, but there's another matrix that we could also perceive if we tuned into it. And so instead of the idea of the matrix as being something sinister, maybe we could see something that we perceive in a different way because we pick up the energies of a different matrix that is much more attuned to what we need personally and collective to be our reality. Because if you hold on to if you accept the concept of space-time rather than time-space, in space-time everything exists all at once. It's all there for us to perceive if we can tune into it. So that's a thought I wanted to share with you. If we can move from the fear of being trapped in something over which we have no control, perhaps the solution is, rather than give in to those fear energies and that anger that is destructive and not helping anybody, perhaps we can look for another matrix, see everything in a different way, see a different hologram. A different hologram. I can't give you the answer about how to do that. I can look for it in myself, but you need to look for it in yourself. You need to think, what is another way? Well, what can I do that's positive and creative? What energies can I tune into? What standing waves that are positive and creative rather than destructive? So that's all I wanted to share with you. This is only a short video, but I felt compelled to share it with you, and perhaps there's something in that for you. Thank you for sharing this short time with me. You can find out more about me if you like on my website, nairijade.com, and you can also look at some of my paintings, listen to a little of my music. There's a few articles there, and there's a link to my book, Joffiel Whispers. And I will also put the YouTube link to two astrologers I follow because I find they have great integrity and they work very hard to help their clients towards an understanding of how our universe is working around us, the energies that are playing out, and both of them offer ways in which we personally can deal with those energies. So I'll put them on the link below. Joni Petrie in the US and Pam Gregory in the UK, both highly respected. I hope to see you next time. Until then, stay well, stay blessed.